Sit back, enjoy, indulge, relax, reflect, evaluate on everything that you've created. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome, Luke, Grace. Lovely to see you again, as always, as we're into part 4 of unlocking our creativity.
Yeah, really good to be here. I think we've touched on it. This is the area of that cycle that kind of people go through, or that we've identified as being really important to kind of keep flow going. Celebrate this final stage is the one that so many people miss out on.
Yeah.
And for that reason, it's the place where anybody who's watching this, or even when I apply it, I get the most gains from the quickest, because it's something that's so easily forgotten. There's others that I'm very good at. I've got a sort of 70-80% efficiency on, because I can completely miss out this phase. It means just a little bit of focus gives me so much back in terms of like reward. So I really like going through this phase. It's gonna be really good.
Yeah, I feel like I've got better over time at rewarding myself, and acknowledging, actually, like you said, how important it is for us to make sure that is part of the whole journey. So we've been doing a 4-part series all on unlocking creativity. So just a quick recap, we started with discovery and looking at how we can use our talents and find our creative genius and turn it into a business idea or business that's going to bring some kind of income. Then we moved into propel, how we can turn those ideas into action. And then last week we went into, what was it? I've just had a mental blank.
Yeah, me too as well. That's really interesting. It's good that we both met there together. So it's the propel, and then it is nurture.
Nurture. How did I forget? Because I always get struggles in that section. I reckon that's what it was. Yeah, so nurturing. So how we can get those ideas that we've turned into actions and actually start bringing people in, whether that's putting your offer out there, asking for feedback, and asking for money, so that you're actually starting to get some kind of return for all the work that you're doing. And today we're going to wrap things up with the idea of celebrating. So we've done all the work, we've reaped the benefits, and now it's time to kind of sit here and enjoy what we've actually been able to bring to fruition.
Yeah, really important. This is the thing that, I think, as we said, it kind of restores balance. It's that whole pattern, it's that cycle, it's the wave in its entirety, and even when you look at the phases of the seasons, or the seasons of the year, like really, I think of the seasons of the year a lot to do with the soil, right? The soil content. So there's a period of time where things are being planted in that soil, nutrients being taken out of that soil and transformed into something else, which is a little bit when your idea comes forward. It's then harvested. That's when your thought process, everything's been put down on paper, it's been put out there, and you've been able to receive something in, right? But then there's a period of time where that nutrient needs to get back into the soil. So you go into autumn, like the leaves fall, all of these different things, and there's this beautiful natural cycle before it starts again. And I really feel like this phase is it's the pause, it's the collecting yourself, it's building up for the next push, which is why it's so important.
Totally. I love that way of thinking about it. I do like cycles and the season. And yeah, to me, this is kind of it is still quite a nurturing part of the cycle in a lot of ways, but it's more kind of inward. It's more, there's reflection, there's evaluation, kind of looking at what went well, what could be improved, and then, basking in it as well. So we talk a lot. I love to talk a lot about the cycle itself. And I love that idea, what you're saying about the wave of going kind of up and down and having to kind of complete the cycle in order for it to then peak up to the next stage again. And it kind of fits in well for me with the idea of, like, we have this concept of being on a hamster wheel, or like needing to hustle, needing to grind, needing to work hard all the time, especially as a self-employed person or business owner. You're like, well, if I don't work, I don't get paid. So how does that fit in for you, the idea of the grind? How do you deal with the grind mentality?
So it's an interesting one, because I think, you've summed up the 4 parts. There's a snowplow going by. If you hear that, I do apologize. I'm in a very different area of the world to you. But I find that the grind, or the hustle, or being focused, and being productive, that's the first 2 stages. And if I continue that into nurture and celebrate, what actually ends up happening is I start bringing in anxiety, and I'll start to bring in sort of tension. and not be able to relax into it. My wife would use the analogy of like a contraction for a woman, you know, what she's going through. It's actually the moment at this point with the nurture and the celebrate is bringing in ease. I think that was a really key word that we spoke about last time.
Yeah.
The grind, as it were, which I don't really like that phrase, because it also makes it seem like it has to be hard work. I don't really believe this idea of hard work. I believe that there's focus and consistency. And I think when people kind of go into this idea that I've got to work hard, I've got to work hard, I've got to this, I've got to that, they can become very, very busy doing nothing.
Yeah, we spoke about last time, didn't we, during nurture,
absolutely.
that idea you've got this long to-do list that you need to get through, but did it actually get you to step forward?
Yeah, and you put the very simple kind of idea forward there of make a list and then just step back for a moment and go, okay, is this going to genuinely get me towards my goal? Yeah. And there's the focus. And then getting it done and getting through the list, that's the consistency, you know, and making those consistent goals easy to reach. You know, so grind, I tend to stay away from. It's become very a seductive idea, hustle, grind, all of these kind of keywords that are put out on social media, which there's nothing wrong with. But I think that it has to be done in a way which is sustainable. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think the problem I have with those words is that the concept is work really hard as much as you can now, so that you in the future are able to attain this lifestyle that you want. So it's this idea, and that kind of fits into the 9-to-5 career progression into retirement, which is a mentality that a lot of people do resonate with. But personally, I don't resonate with that. I want to have mini retirements my whole life. I don't see myself stopping working at a definite point in the future. So that's going to evolve. So in order to sustain the kind of lifestyle I want in the future, I feel I need to build that now. So I can't be working really hard and going, in a year's time, I'm going to take a break, because one, I'll burn out. Two, I won't enjoy the process that I'm actually in now in the present. And that to me is key. So it's actually stripping back work in a lot of ways. So I used to be a massive workaholic, and still I get a little bit of a buzz when I work really hard. So I've noticed this. Some days I'll work like full on 11, 12-hour days. And at the end, I am completely shattered. The next day, usually my neck's out, so I can't look at a computer again. So there's all these like negative health impacts, but I feel like a buzz of like, oh, I feel so productive. I feel like I got all this stuff done. And that's not a sustainable mentality. I don't want that. So it's like trying to reconfigure your idea of what success is and what productivity is, so that you're still enjoying stuff, you're celebrating your wins every day, in small ways. It's not, you know, always lavishly spending on something, but having that kind of balance in your everyday that allows you to enjoy yourself now as well as what you're working towards.
Absolutely. And I think as well, along with this idea of the grind and the hustle, I think it comes from the fact that stoicism has become quite a popular thing right now. Mm. And it's that idea of delayed gratification. Mm. And delayed gratification is so important. Mm. Like, it's so important to understand that. Like, I can tell you, as somebody who is quite in the moment, could almost be a bit hedonistic in the way that I kind of live, in terms of like, that's what I enjoy, that's the thing that I'm going to do. Delayed gratification is really important. I have ruined businesses in the past through not understanding exactly, through getting the balance wrong of when to, sometimes I'll overwork. It's like somebody who's trying to eat healthy. Don't do a diet, do something that's sustainable. Otherwise it often becomes not eating nearly enough and then binging. Yeah. Right. And that's my thing with like, and it was my thing with kind of giving myself rewards and gratification. I would do that. Whereas, like you say, it's about making it sustainable. It's about giving you those little things at the end of each day, whether that's just a moment of reflection and a fill in the blank of what works for you, to also an overall kind of reward at the end of a task. This moment of celebrate really is effective application of the gratification that you get at the end of either a small task within a day or at the end of a big project. and it's that perfect kind of reward system. There's a number of people, we're talking about atomic habits in the book, how that kind of unlocks productivity, and Jordan Peterson, these are, who forget his political philosophies. When you look at him as a psychologist, he talks very much about this idea of set yourself a target, get it done, put in a reward system there for you, but you better give yourself that reward. Yeah. Because if you don't, next time your brain's like, nah, I'm not doing this because you didn't give me the coffee and cake that you said you were going to give me. It's really important. This is where goal setting comes in two ways, not only what you want to make, but also what you're going to get. And as you all know, somebody who looks at money, it's a lot like accounting, right? It's not only the money that comes in, which is the goal, it's also what you get to pay yourself when you get to pay yourself a wage. That would be a very literal example of celebration, goal setting, and working through that.
Totally agree. And so I like what you said about how sometimes it's a daily thing that we're looking at, a daily cycle, and others it's kind of a project cycle. I also like to use in my work the female cycle as a great tool to kind of figure out what tasks you're going to be capable of doing at different times of the month. So a lot of the time with the female cycle, not to go into too much detail because it's a whole subject in its own, and I do quite a bit of work in this with Davila Thompson, who's a flow expert. So we talk all about finance and flow and how you can relate the two. But the idea is that at certain times of the month, you have hormonal changes that are going to impact your level of ability to be in different headspaces. So this fits quite well into what we talk about with the 4 cycle elements in general. So like I like to call them initiate, collaborate, organize, and evaluate, but they're quite similar to our own concepts within the cycle of this idea of everything has a place at a certain time, whether that's your female cycle, whether that's because you're following the moon, which is another way people like to, if they don't have periods, if they don't menstruate, that's another way that women can, or not even just women, but anybody can kind of regulate some kind of order. Or it could just be observing your own mood on a specific day and going, okay, I'm not feeling it, maybe a 5 out of 10 in productivity. So what can I actually achieve today? How many tasks will make me feel good about actually ticking off?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. And if we were to talk about the big process of celebrating, so kind of how that works at the end of a big project. We've spoken about these 4 stages. I know when I've been going through it, I've been looking at things that I'm working on, and my mind often goes to the big kind of the really satisfying, fulfilling things that I'm going to be able to create. And so I work with Olympic weightlifters, okay? Incredible people. They're going for it's reproducing movement over and over and over again. The sport that I think is most like, believe it or not, is golf, right? Because it's a set movement that's incredibly quick, okay? And when you're at the highest level, which I'm fortunate to work with some people who are, they're going through very, very small gains. And then they'll go through a whole lifting cycle in order to get stronger, and then go, okay, can I get a personal best of like a kilogram, okay, on this particular lift? And I was working with one of my clients. She did an amazing performance in the Pan Ams. And she's so focused that there was this moment where we were sitting down afterwards, and she was sort of talking about what she was going to do next. Okay, now I'm going to, and she's planning her next kind of lifting cycle, which is a great thing to do. But it was a moment where she'd produced something that was so amazing. She'd set herself such different challenges, and her business was based around all of this type of thing, activity. And I just had to sit down with her and just be like, look, just take a moment, just really appreciate the person that you are, what you've achieved, and everything that's built into this business that you've got, the community that you've got at this business, this phenomenal strength that you have, this phenomenal feminine strength that you have, this leader that you are, the way that anybody in your business can talk to anybody else. Like there's something where it comes to the point of a big celebration, okay? And the way that I summed it up to her, it's like when you first lay down on a beach, okay, and you put the towel down and you lie down and you feel the sand kind of accommodate to like your body, and then you start to feel that glorious, like radiant energy from the sun. And you just kind of relax down and you're like, this is good. And what I like about that moment is whether you've achieved your goal or not, it's the perfect space with which to reflect, and reflect in a way that is incredibly honest, but also incredibly compassionate to you. So it's a moment where if you have failed, quote unquote failed, you can fail gloriously, and you can see it as not failure, but see it as feedback. That ability at that moment to be able to laugh over whatever has happened, the ridiculousness, even if it's not gone the way that you want it to, or laugh because of how ridiculously well it did go. So much of that is about the state at which you're going into sort of this celebration phase. Like I say, it's like basking in the light of a glorious sun, you know, at the end of one of those big projects, whatever that delayed gratification you decide you're going to give yourself, really enjoy it, and really bring fertility back into the soil for the next round of sowing some seeds, right, and reaping the rewards. I love it. I love it. I really think it's a state that you have to understand that you need to get into to then apply some very nurturing kind of elements. Yeah.
Love it. What are your ways of celebrating? Like, what do you do for yourself?
Okay, so that's interesting because we all have things that are positive and negative that we indulge in, right? So I really like food. Okay, I do. I like food. My mum's a chef. She's an amazing chef. Growing up around really good food. But it's interesting because I also find the way that I celebrate can often be the same format with which I will either procrastinate or in actual fact go into denial, right? So food is a great example there, because I will sometimes eat if I'm bored or if I'm classic type things, right? But at the same time, when I'm celebrating, my presence over what I'm doing is so much more. Okay, it will be that thing of really setting aside some time and cooking an amazing meal, sitting down and really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Okay, it may be making a purchase of some kind, nothing too big, but just that thing that is there and it represents that milestone. I'd love it to get to the point where it kind of went down to being able to get away with my family. It will be days with my family, you know, moments where, honestly, I think the common theme is the level of engagement that I have with myself in that moment.
Yeah, I like that.
You know?
Yeah.
And again, which again brings me back around to, I know I've referenced my wife and her work quite a bit, but what she says she witnesses in women who are laboring, that kind of moment afterwards when they first kind of hold the baby, like it's just massive engagement. It's skin on skin contact. It's all of these different things. And it's the breathing changes. It's just total and utter active presence in whatever it is that you're choosing to do.
That's a really fresh way of looking at it. I've not thought of it like that before. I think it relates well to actually what mine would be too, but mine is like guilt-free or like conscious time off. So it's that idea of, so like when you work for yourself, you kind of work whenever you want and don't want. So a lot of the time, even if I've got not much on, I might have a day off, but no, I'll do a couple of things. And then you end up sitting down and doing way more than you meant to. So it's some days going, no, I'm having a proper day off tomorrow. It's actually blocked out of my schedule, so no one can book in. And then when I'm in it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually enjoying the fact that I know I don't have to open my computer. I don't have to reply to any messages, and I'm just going to completely be in that present moment of enjoying time off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's for everybody, if they were trying to figure out, right, really, what is the thing that I would do to celebrate? Think of that thing that you would normally do that you believe is indulgent. And then imagine just doing it in a space where you're totally and utterly guilt-free from doing it.
Yeah.
And that is the perfect celebration.
Yeah, totally agree. Ooh. And then the other side of it, which we've so spoken a bit in the past, just the two of us around, is the pitfalls of celebration or overindulging or doing too much in the celebration phase, which then stops us going into the next cycle again.
Yeah, it's all about keeping that momentum up, right? You know, again, the money analogy works really, really well. You know, if you're working in a business, you're earning a certain amount, you end up paying yourself too much, not enough to be able to reinvest in whatever else is next coming. Well, all momentum's gone.
Yeah.
You know, in exactly the same way, you might have a work routine. I like to get up early. That's one thing that I do to celebrate. I might give myself a set number of days where I'm like, I'm not lying. I'm going to really enjoy this. But if I do that for too long, that will become the new norm, and that's not my working norm. So then it takes me out of that habit, and then I have to work to get back into that habit, in the same way that you would have to work to build that finance that you've spent, that you should have taken forward a little bit in terms of investing. You know, we spoke about in the last call, nurture. We spoke about, rather than being in a place of give and take, being in a place of give, receive, share, and grow. You know, and actually the celebration phase is making sure that you're doing that with yourself. You know, you've gone through this whole process of giving, receiving, sharing, and now you've got to celebrate in such a way that's not going to stop yourself from being able to grow. Because otherwise you're going to start playing give and take with yourself. You know, momentum at this point is so key, because you've put in so much energy to create it, that slipping up on that, you know, it's almost the biggest, it's the worst thing you can do in terms of self-defeating, because you've actually created the movement at that point. You know, so just some sensible decisions and awareness about what it is that you're doing, and then that just compounds and it builds and it builds.
Love it.
Yeah.
This has been so good. Is there anything else that you think of when you think of celebrate, or is that,
there's loads, but like I think all I'd be doing is rehashing the same thing with different analogies. So but it's something that I really do feel so completely, and it is so important.
Yeah.
You know, for anybody watching this, like just taking a moment to really bring some conscious thought and presence to how you're going to do this.
What the tangible, like what are the moments that you're going to reward yourself for? So when you're thinking ahead, it's like, okay, what's coming up where I think I want to reward myself for it, and then what those rewards will be. Yeah. So I always say that's a good thing to map out or have written down somewhere in your diary or in your notebook somewhere, and then you go, when you get to that milestone, you can refer back and go, oh yeah, I said I'd do this, or it will be in your mind consciously, because you will be excited to hit that reward.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, here we are at the end of our little mini series. So we've covered a lot of concepts in the last 4 weeks. And what can people do if they want to find out more from you, Luke?
Same as before, like just reach out. You know, you've always got to ask that question. You know, you've always got to take that action. And it can be very, very simple things that completely turn your day around, which can turn your week around, which is your month, and then your life, and so on and so forth. You know, and I know you've all had moments, people that are watching this, where a chance conversation with somebody at a bus stop or in a public space or a coffee shop has resulted in a train of thought that's actually been quite monumental as time's gone on. You know, this is a genuine invitation at this moment, that if it feels right to lean over the coffee table and just start a conversation with that person on the other side of the table, which right now is me, like, take it. Like, all you got to do is reach out, get in touch with me on social media. We could have a consultation call if that's something that you're interested with. And even if it's just bouncing ideas off, like, get in touch, just reach out.
Yes. I am really good at celebrating now. So if you want someone to celebrate with or celebrate for you, if you're finding it too difficult to, I have like thousands of ideas of ways you can do that. I mean, when it comes to, I don't know if you've taken my money personality quiz, I recommend you do that, because it will tell you what your feelings are towards money. And my personality style is the reveler. So I enjoy spending and being in the moment, and my spending can be quite lavish at times, which means I need to try and build my finances up to a point where that is allowed in a guilt-free way. But yeah, if you want to talk about any aspects of the cycle, whether it's discovering, whether it's celebrating, whether it's nurturing or propelling, both Luke and I have quite different, unique approaches, but also quite complementary ways. So it depends whether you're looking more from a finance side or from that transformational side. So yeah, get in touch with either of us. I'm on socials on Get Comfy with Money, and I've also got a bunch of content online on my Instagram and Facebook that might be useful as resources, so check them out. Cool. All right, well, as always, thank you, and yeah, I look forward to what we decide to kind of work on together next.
Yeah, the new year's going to be good. Definitely.
Yeah, will be. Take care, Luke.
All right, cheers. Thank you. Bye.